So, tariffs. Puts out that there's a court ruling suggesting they're going to try and stop these tariffs. Brilliant. Okay, that for me is good news. Yep, the market reacts accordingly. Of course, on the back of Nvidia doing so well with its earnings, the market reacts accordingly. Now, what we've just had is, as much as this court ruling has come into play, it's going to get overturned. So 1 minute you've got effectively investors looking like they should be coming out of safe haven assets to come back into risk on avenues, then all of a sudden it just reverts back, which explains why the euro's pumping up, which explains why gold's moving up. And when you look at everything out of nowhere, you get this move. Now, we've just had news announcements come out regarding the data of the unemployment claims. That's going to be something we're going to talk about right now. But what I'm going to be diving into today is where we can expect the market to go, given that Nvidia news announcements has brought the optimism back to the marketplace. This judge ruling about what's going to be happening with the tariffs, whether it gets overturned or not. Hassan has been pretty much saying today that it's going to get overturned, but there are other measures that Trump can actually utilize as president to make sure that he gets the best of these tariffs. So if you are new, welcome to today's live stream, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like it's going to be a bit of a crazy day overall. And you know what? I'm going to say this. If you're trading in these environments, take whatever you can get, all right? This is where a lot of people get shaken out with the idea of trading certain structures, trading certain ways, methodologies. This is not the normal market. Someone says something, it goes in the opposite direction. The markets are very, very reactive. You've gone to the times now where it's like, okay, looks like we've got a wedge, we've got this pattern, and then you allow it to play out the way it would need to play out. But at a moment's notice, something can happen which will send everything in the opposing direction, which can shake you out. This is why I say you either use light size or you are regimented with your risk, because you're not going to get every single trade correct, okay? Make sure you're managing your expectations accordingly. Now, let's get with the program, ladies and gentlemen, break it all down for you on what madness is about to unfold in this market. So the market has got a risk appetite right now, of course, because of Nvidia. Going into Nvidia right now, just having a look at the out of hours trading, you can see Nvidia is right now trading at around the 142. Last night, all those orders on the depth of market that we were identifying with Nvidia have pretty much been done. As we go into the actual open, here is some important numbers. On the offer side, at 144.99, you've got 39,000 shares to be sold, okay? Going even higher at that, you've got 148 at 60,000, and then 29,000 at 149. Now, with that being said, when the open comes into play, Nvidia is very, very close towards its all-time highs. Gets to 150, we are practically there, okay? And that's going to be a great news for investors with Nvidia, but it looks like they are going to be looking, when they mark prices higher, they're effectively selling. And Redfin is said, which is like an analyst company, has come out and said that 34% of the participants are selling right now, okay? So that puts things into perspective. If we just go over and have a look at the sentiment from the dumb money, smart money concept, you can see that dumb money is right at the peak right here where they are overly excited about things. Smart money is starting to edge upwards, which could suggest the idea that we may have peaked out, okay? Quickly going over into the stock market right now, you can see NASDAQ has pretty much given back its gains from yesterday evening, but it's doing a standard rise, retrace. The story is continuation, and it's all going to be about whether or not investors are cool with what's going on. Now, the story with the tariffs is this. It says risk assets posted widespread gains on Thursday after a U.S. court blocked the bulk of President Trump's import tariffs. Now, Hassan has come out after he started speaking saying that there is a chance that we're going to overturn that. Now, the only alternative is that Trump has. Without knowing too much, I'm making an assumption that the only thing that Trump could do is sanctions. You can't do the tariffs, and you can do sanctions if you want. Like, he's throwing sanctions on Russia all the time. So that's going to be something that I'm going to be paying close attention to. But investors are looking at this news announcements from Nvidia, and Nvidia, excuse me, Nvidia isn't stopping. Check this out. Nvidia considering a new AI chip for China, but rules out Hopper series due to US export ban. So one way or another, this could lead problems to Nvidia, like court rulings, why you're not listening to the president as such. I mean, they don't need to listen, but you can see that there's going to be a lot of back and forth. And I think that's what it's going to lead to. Okay. If you're not doing what the president is saying kind of thing in terms of trade, it could be a little bit of a problem. It says here, NVIDIA said new artificial intelligence chip for Chinese market is not ready, although it is considering such a plan as US export controls continue to cloud the outlook for the tech giant in the world's second largest economy. So it's one of those ones where it's like they're trying to make ends meet, but effectively meet the demand, because that's a lot of money for them. Just the export cap itself cost them nearly 5.5 billion. So you can imagine that they're going to try and do their hardest to make sure that they're still putting out the chips that the world wants, especially China, But I don't think Trump's going to continue with this tariff story. He's getting too much heat with it all. Way too much heat. Now, speaking of cryptocurrency, got some good news. BlackRock ETF records a month-long inflow run with 481 million of Bitcoin purchased today. Going into the ETF, you can see it's now at 659,000. So they're not stopping, ladies and gentlemen. But yesterday's FOMC results, you can see here that they were talking about what's it going to look like for cryptocurrency. Now, as you go into the article, it goes on to say about what the impact will be if the Federal Reserve keeps interest rates at the levels that they are. It says here, the market has been hoping for a rate cut after it failed to do so and revealed when the previous FOMC minutes were released in April. However, with economic disruption that occurred in the last 2 months, the expectation was that rates would remain unchanged. We know that. So expectation for interest rates to be at the same levels is from this next meeting coming up and the meeting afterwards. It's only in September where there is an expectation that the interest rates could be adjusted, where you've got the bets on swap traders suggesting 50-50 that the interest rates are going to be between 4.25% and 4.5%, and then 4% and then 4.25%. So that's only in September time. But looking at the data, I mean, if we go into it today, quickly refresh this and have a look. So the preliminary GDP has then gone down, but it's actually expanded because it was projected to come in at minus 0.3, but it actually came in higher, which is sort of a good thing. Now we've got here unemployment claims coming in at 240,000. That is good news for the Federal Reserve. It's good news because it means that you haven't got a robust labor market, which could prompt the idea of inflation. And then, of course, the preliminary GDP price index came in flat at 3.7% when they expected it 3.7. It's been pretty much the same. And then we're going to get the pending home sales when they're expecting a contraction of minus 0.9%. Now, to put it into perspective for you all, where we are with the interest rates and how it's going to impact cryptocurrency is pretty simple. When you've got high interest rates, it means that it's going to be costing you a lot more money to actually borrow dollars because it's a high interest rate. Then naturally, investors are going to go and park themselves in areas where they can eliminate the risk because the cost of doing business is so high. So they'll go and borrow dollars. And even though it's costing them a lot of money, they're going to put it into riskier, less risk assets because they know it's costing them money, but at least they can generate a yield because of how expensive it is to borrow. But the problem with that is this: investors can't sit in low risk yields for too long because they need to get risk. They want to actually generate yield. And because of the instability of where we are with the interest rates, yeah, we know it's going to stay higher for longer. But the problem we've got is we've got a depreciating dollar. And that's the problem that we have, which will naturally end up leading investors to do something about that. They're either going to go into other assets like the euro or the yen, and then start converting their dollars into that, sitting European bonds, European stocks, European other assets across the board. And then you've got yen stocks and yen bonds. Now, we had some good, this week, guys, we've had good news, to say the least. We have had good news. Now, a lot of news that people look for is what whale's buying this and what have you, and your GameStop are now purchasing Bitcoin. But when we look at it from a macro perspective, the only thing that's causing the market to be a little bit reluctant about things is the tariffs. But based on NVIDIA's earnings, the market technically is still all right, and it's optimistic about things. But with this court ruling with Trump, that's going to put a block on his tariffs, but they just said now that the Eurozone's coming back to Trump with negotiations. We've already got 3 trade deals that have come into play, according to Hassan. So what is it? It's just volatility. The market's reacting to news. But the bigger picture will still continue. We know we're going to get interest rate cuts, and we know it's going to be good for cryptocurrency. Why? Look, if we go over to Bitcoin right now, you can see that Bitcoin is trading, it's pretty quiet, all right? Let me just flip that over. It's trading pretty quiet. But one thing you got to take into consideration is the dollar dominance, all right? Now, the dollar dominance right now, where we at? Come on, where is my dollar chart? I don't believe it. I can't find it. There you go. The dollar chart itself has now made a little bit of a retrace, but it's done a nice little stop run lower, and you've got this massive red vector candle. That, of course, was on the story of the tariffs, and of course, the data that's come out right now, that's good news for the data, you know? But it's a reactive movement because it's negative for the dollar when people are claiming benefit. But it now adds to the hope that the market's going to get the interest rate cuts. So what does that mean? It means that the dollar's come down, which means that the dollar can effectively make a recovery back up. Why? Because every investor now knows that the Fed has got more information that a contraction in the labor market means that there's going to be less people working. That means your economy is going to be slowing down even more. So what do you do to avoid that? Release the interest rates, start cutting them. That will then lead investors to start converting the fact that you've got a strong euro coming out of safe havens, go back into the dollar, start buying dollars, convert those dollars into the stock market, and you're effectively getting yourself a discount on the stock market overall, which will then naturally end up sending the NASDAQ to the upside. Roll that over to the idea of the carry trade principle. Go to Aussie yen. What's Aussie yen doing? It's coming away from that W formation that we marked off at the start of the week. Happy days. Now it's made the rise, the retrace. The logic is they're going to consolidate to try and initiate the continuation back up. Obviously, the good news about the Japanese stopping the issuance of bonds, which means that their yields are going to go down, their bonds are going to go up, investors are going to transact on yen. They'll take yen, they'll borrow it, and then they'll put it elsewhere. So you can see how the market positions itself from a macro perspective to try and see the idea that investors want to get back into risk. They do. I mean, if we go over to gold right now, let's have a look at gold. Gold has made a nice little V-shaped reversal back up. Hasn't really cleared anything, but naturally that's what you expect. But I'm expecting gold to come back into the ranges because investors will start to see that the stock market's pumping, and whatever news comes out about this tariff court ruling, if they do actually succeed at this tariff ruling, ladies and gentlemen, because they're saying it's getting overturned, but if they were to go through with it, your Bitcoin would absolutely explode. NASDAQ would clear its all-time high. Dollar would gain so much strength, and it will be back to normal. And I think that's what would cause the markets. But that really does undermine Trump. They already called him a chicken, and now you got courts coming in. It's like he's been doing this big song and dance about tariffs. I'm the big D right here. And then all of a sudden, court rulings come in. It's like sort of like mutiny on the bounty kind of thing. But it's not in that respect. But good news regarding the inflows on the ETF and the increase on the balance. So that would then only suggest the following. Bitcoin is currently stuck in between the psychological ranges. And this is the problem that I've got with Bitcoin. It's made a nice pump to the upside, okay? We could end up seeing Bitcoin consolidating sideways. Now, speculation on the street is saying that Bitcoin dominance is going to keep on going and altcoin season is going to be on hold. A lot of people are asking for the altcoin season. But in my opinion, and you know what, you can challenge me on it, I don't think you're going to get the altcoin season that you want. And it won't be because of altcoin season. It'll be because everyone's just piling cash looking for risk. You know, that's what I think is going to happen, because Bitcoin dominance for me, I believe is going to continue, and it's going to surpass even up towards the 70. But it's going to clear back up to this 65 easily. I genuinely believe that's going to be the case. So that's my next level for the Bitcoin dominance. You might take that information and say, okay, we can then start going over to altcoins and short. But I believe that even if Bitcoin dominance was to go higher, I think investors will be like, okay, if they're not selling their Bitcoins or consolidating to start picking up altcoins, at least people can still be buying altcoins. Because if Ethereum moves up, Solana moves up, Bitcoin moves up, the general cryptocurrency world is going to be very optimistic. They're not going to be sitting there waiting for the altcoin season table to come up and say, yeah, we're in altcoin season. People are going to get triggered and they're going to be like, yeah, you know what? Let's get into it and just start buying because everything's coming up. You know, if you just look at, for example, let's just look at BNB, okay, as an altcoin in principle. Yeah, it's climbing up, okay? We know that. But Bitcoin, it's also climbing up, all right? Look at Solana, climbing up. HBAR, consolidating but moving away from the lows. Ethereum, climbing up. So if the idea is that as long as risk comes back on and everything's okay with the tariffs, everything else will pump. Because I know a lot of people are probably waiting or positioning themselves not to buy Bitcoin because they think that altcoin season's coming and Bitcoin's just going to go flat. You can't do that because Wall Street doesn't look at altcoin season. It doesn't. It's either got the ETF or just buying Bitcoin on spot in their own accounts. They're going to the ETF. This is their season. And I might challenge a lot of people's thinking about it, and it might challenge your own thinking about it. But I believe there's been several transitions in cryptocurrency, whether it's the rainbow cycle, whether it's whatever theory it is, your 4-year cycle is dead or whatever. Okay. Now you got the altcoin season being cancelled. It's not going to be cancelled. If money comes into crypto, it's going to be dispersed everywhere because not everyone shares the same opinion about every single coin. But if the optimism and sentiment is there, they're just buying anything that they can. That's what I think is going to be happening. But so rather than you be focused too much on the idea that, oh, I need Bitcoin dominance to come down, Bitcoin dominance is not going to be coming down to those levels that you want unless there is genuinely profit taking coming out of this bad boy right here. But this balance is going up. You want your adoption. You now got this Trump media wants to put in 2.5 billion of Bitcoin. GameStop wants to buy Bitcoin. So what do you think is going to happen? If GameStop wants to buy Bitcoin, do you think anyone's going to be selling it? No. They're not going to be selling it. You ain't going to be selling your Bitcoin and going over to XRP now, are you? What, because of altcoin season? Nah, man, it's not happening, is it? Quickly going over into Bitcoin price action right now, going into the order flow. It's been relatively quiet to say the least, guys. And you can tell, look, not really got any bids or offers. Okay, yesterday we had all of this bidding right here, which I believe that if they do decide to roll Bitcoin's price over, then we're going to see some trigger orders coming in. Because if you look at the order flow right here, not really got any commitment. It's all like 1 million, 4 million, 2 million. Saw 9 million a minute ago, 4 million right there, 1 million, 2 million. It means that the market technically can be prone to some volatility. But we haven't got anything that we got over here, like 14 million right there. Go into it, 7 million. We got yesterday with that big $50 million order. Where was it? 6 million, 7 million right there. Just need to find that big order that they transacted on 11 million, 9 million, 6, 5, 7, 32 million. 32, was that same one? 32 million at 108,300. And then, yeah, same again. And then where was that? 33 million at 108,400. Is that 50 million there? 20 million at 108,700. And then where was that 50 million? I saw it yesterday. Don't know if they transacted on it. But yeah, it's the commitment is here on Bitcoin, okay? But there's nothing coming into play right now. So just be very cautious with it because you could get yourself a nice snap reversal coming into play. The news for the marketplace right now is unemployment claims, expectation of interest rates to come down because they're getting the data that they want. All right. And then with that being said, of course, with NVIDIA coming into play, you've then got the idea that NVIDIA is going to be doing very, hold on. NVIDIA, yeah, 142. Still looking at the order flow right here for NVIDIA. And yeah, we're still good with 41,000, 60,000 at 148.95 and 31. So the idea is that pricing principle would project towards those points. That's what we'd be looking for. Okay. But yeah, other than that, ladies and gentlemen, just looking at things across the board with the NASDAQ. I took a couple of trades this morning on the NASDAQ. I saw a breakdown on the order flow. I'll just show you right now what that is. I actually, listen, I said this in my setup this morning, okay, for the Platinum members. There ain't no one in the US that'll be buying NASDAQ at these premiums. They won't be buying stock at these premiums. They will be wanting a retrace, okay? And that's the retrace that you're looking for. I traded that retrace right here. So let me show you. Where is it? Here we go. So earlier on this morning, I managed to take some shorts on the NASDAQ, which fundamentally was creating the idea of a pattern, okay? So let me show you. So you've got you've effectively started running shorts from this range. You've got the drop. Oh, bloody hell. Hold on a second. Where is it? Where is my line? Let me do that. Yeah. So you got the drop, and then you've effectively got the retrace, which is where I loaded up again. And then, of course, the continuation back down. Okay. And we closed off inside of this range right here. And you can see a little W formation, which NASDAQ is notorious for. Instant recovery, retrace back into the zone. The low's been set. Price climbs up. Okay. So we made that nice little trade. Total was about 17 contracts on the micros. But I also did exactly the same thing on the S&P and copied the trade over for the S&P and the Dow. So let me just bring that up for you to put it into perspective on what we, it's going to take too long. But we ended up making $2,096 for the morning session. And if I trade later on, depending on how the market's behaving, I should be able to try and claw a little bit more of a balance on that and then trade all the way back up, because I actually believe that they've marked the NASDAQ down. They've been bidding on NVIDIA to effectively buy it and then send it. That's what I think is going to be happening. I mean, this whole bidding of the market to the downside, and they've now managed to find ground, it's telling me something could be brewing for the NASDAQ later on. But we'll wait and see how the market reacts to everything in regards to these tariff deals. Okay? Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? So far, so good. Excuse me. We lose 105K further downside. For me, there is no price point that, excuse me. Listen, this is what you got to look out for. Bitcoin's gone nowhere. It's stuck in the psychological ranges. And if it can't break beyond the psychological low and it can't break beyond the psychological high, then you've just got pretty much a ranging weak, which then gives you the idea of, see, look, and NVIDIA's coming down. They're bidding NVIDIA. They are bidding NVIDIA. There's a few bids on the NVIDIA right here, as you can see, which will naturally make you think that the NASDAQ is going to price in the NASDAQ coming down. But you've got 54,000 at 139. So they really like this 140 zone. They've been transacting on the bid side right here. 380,000 buys or bids. Yeah, bids at the 141. So this is a clear area of interest in the NVIDIA, which will naturally make us believe that it's going to try and come back up. Tino, with W formations, does the second V of the W being deeper than the first have any bearing or invalidate the information? I look back across the charts, would like your opinion on that. Okay, so the gentleman's asking the question, does the W formation get invalidated if the second leg comes down below this one? What you're looking for is this. It's not that a case of it will be invalidated. It's all going to rely on the candlestick that is able to close above the first leg, okay? Because this can be a stop run. And that's the one thing you can't factor in trading. Look what happened yesterday to the NASDAQ. Let me just put this into perspective, okay? Last night on the NASDAQ, when they made this move to the downside, there was no trigger for it. There was no news announcements. Nothing was happening in the marketplace. NASDAQ slumped out of nowhere. But they preempted it. They picked up the bids and they shifted to the upside. I was very confident that NASDAQ was going to make a move to the upside last night. And in the Platinum members, we projected last night that we were expecting movement to the upside. You're running longs across the board and only trade crypto and NASDAQ. And if they did that, happy days, they would have made some cash on this volatility to the upside. Then the court thing come into play, which pumped it up a little bit more. Okay. But this drop right here, uncalled for. No one expected it. You could say the idea that there was a green vector candle right there, okay? And if you were trading that logic, you would have been correct on that move down. Equally, it came straight back up. But for me, that was a stop run to collect the bids to fulfill the intention of the news announcements. It's like they knew it was going to be good for NVIDIA. You can't tell me that these market makers, liquidity providers, dealers, the guys in the game who are battling against each other don't know information. They surely do. And when you see little bold moves like that out of nowhere, it's to collect the bids to then instantly make the reversal. Bitcoin does that. And this right here is a classic example of a W formation that might form like so to then make the reversal, as long as the candle then closes back into the low of that W. So look at this yesterday. Let's go to the 5-minute time frame on that. There was a little W formation right there. Yeah. Okay. So let's go on to 1-minute time frame just to put it into perspective. Look at this. This is a classic example. A little bit volatile, but fundamentally, W formation, first leg, retrace. The next leg has come down and swept that liquidity, but the candle managed to close up back above that actual low. So if the candlestick closes back up above the range of the first leg of the W formation, it's good. You just need to make sure that you've got green vector candles pushing price up, moving away from that range. That's what you're looking for with those W formations, okay? Hope that answers your question, my friend. Tino, here we go. You liking the stream? Come on, man. Like the stream, ladies and gentlemen. It costs you nothing to do that. Tino, can someone start training Forex or crypto with $200? You can, but you're better off just using demo accounts just to get a feel for execution, okay? And then once you've got a feel for execution, then drop it down to using a small amount. Make it as cheap as possible. Don't aim to turn your $200 into millions. Don't do that. Aim to turn your $200 at least to pick up percentages. Pick up 0.5%, 10%, 3%, 1%. And as you keep on picking up percentages and you get bored shitless, your $200 move or $200 account now becomes $3,000. because all you're doing is just executing. When you disconnect the idea of having to make $200 and turn it into millions, you're putting pressure on yourself. If you can come to the chart and say, you know what, I've executed a certain strategy 5,000 times. I've got 5,000 attempts on this, and I've maintained a 70% win rate, for example. I'm going to try and put it to the test. I'm going to put $200 into the account, and I'm going to try and replicate that, and no emotional attachment to making any money on it. I just want to trade well, and then see how it goes from there. Unless you've got the execution down, there's no point in trying to guess whether $100 is going to help you make money or $10,000 is going to help you make money. It won't make a difference unless you know your execution. Focus on how many executions you've done with your system. Focus on how many times you can exploit it. Like, for example, the PDF, right? Let's just do this, okay? V-shaped reversals. Will you notice what a V-shaped reversal is? There are many V-shaped reversals that occur in Bitcoin, especially on NASDAQ, okay? But how many of them have you taken? So if you go back in the charts and find the V-shapes and then build the criteria, this is the PDF you get with the Platinum membership, you'll understand what to get with the V-shape and know what to look for, okay? So then when you go back into the charts and look for V-shaped reversals, you'll then say to yourself, okay, we need X, Y, and Z criteria, okay? When you see that criteria, you take it. Then the next time, you take it. Next time. And then before you know it, you've done 5,000 V-shapes, okay? Or let's be honest. You've done 200-300 V-shapes and you've made some cash on it. Now take that with a small amount of liquidity and then apply it and see if you've got the execution down. Then you're going to know whether or not you can actually do it with real money, because it's with the real money that makes or forces you to say, right, you know what? I'm going to only risk this amount. I'm not going to go full board just because I've got a small amount of liquidity and I'm going to go 100x on leverage. You're asking to get slapped about. So anybody that is new that wants to try and build balances, your goal isn't to build the balance. Your goal is to focus on getting your execution down, because once your execution's done, what happens when you've executed correctly? You've made money. So then why do you need to worry about how much money you can make with 200? If you know your execution, you're good. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? Tina, how do you feel about the data that shows us that the world in a deep hole, but market shows us the money is in? Good question. All right. Listen. Oh, there you go. There's that zone again. Look at that. Here we go. Markets open. 847,000 at 141.93. They really want to hold this range on NASDAQ. The moves have come in. Yeah, we got big buying coming across the board. Big buying across the board. Lots of buying. Hardly any selling on the Mag 7. Interesting. Let's just quickly go over and have a look. NASDAQ coming in. They're bidding down. Create the Brinks box. Tap the 50. Sweep the Brinks. Happy days. Okay. So what do I think about the... What was the question? What was the question again? Tina, what... No, where was it? Shoot, sorry. Yeah, funding account is good when you have a small balance. Listen, it doesn't... The DOM... Okay, I'm answering too many questions. The DOM that I use is Jigsaw, okay? I use this platform. I mean, now is a crazy time to even be trading. If you want to see the proof of that, let's just try and take a little bit of a stab right now. Look, NASDAQ's working lower. There's no point in even trying to take advantage of this. It's trading towards the lows of its profile. Yesterday's high is all the way there. And it's very, very difficult to try and trade this. I'm not even going to put any size on this because it's absolutely crazy because of what they're doing right now. But you can see that these momentum tails right here, they just tell you what the story is. It's just absolutely wild. Like, how do you read that? You know, a depth of market trader is different to a candlestick trader, okay? You're seeing things way differently, okay? And I use the depth of market because my frequency of trading, I can get in and out quite frequently, but I'm only going to be holding if I'm building positions. Only if I'm building positions. Can I build a position with this right now? Not at all. No way. Because this is the first few minutes of the market. I always encourage everyone to wait for the Brinks, because in the first few minutes of the market, they will understand how price and what range is going to be set. And then I'm just looking for price to break one zone or the other, okay? I can get in. I'll get in now. There you go. Cheap and cheerful. Just one contract on the micros. That's dead. That's so flipping small. It's not worth my time. But I'm getting a feel right now for what the market could be getting up to. Like, because I've got risk on. I'm not aiming to make money. I'm aiming to understand if this is a good zone to run longs from. So I'll watch it. Look how much time I'm spending in a drawdown and how much time I'm spending in profit. That's giving me a reason to understand what's going on here. So I'm monitoring. I'm paying attention to it. Where can I start adding? I'm trading at the lows of the profile. What if the market still needs to absorb the news? I'm going to give it some freedom. I'm only using one contract. I can now approach this logically without being emotional. Okay? Because if I put in more size because people like trade porn and I show it to you, what happens? Do you learn anything? Fuck no. You learn nothing. But this is how I do it. I build positions in terms of scalps to trade towards one point to the next. And I have to start the market off with a probe. This is the test. Okay? So let's look. Look how long they've been bouncing up and down in this range right now. Could that be good news for me? Well, I'm not going to commit any more size unless I see them actually clearing away from this zone. So I'll be waiting. Just look at how the market's behaving. It's not doing anything. It's absolutely horrible. Let me just put this here. There you go. Automatic on the center line. There you go. So now we're just waiting. It's costing me $12, ladies and gentlemen. Is that a lot of money? No. It's not hurting my account at all. Now it's going down. Okay, now I'm getting a bit of a read on this, starting to understand the way the market is behaving. Oh, it's coming back up again. So what does this tell me right now? Tells me that the market is just preparing itself. Do I need to put risk on? No. I can just keep it as it is. I can leave this position open and be like, right, let's see how long it takes them to find their feet. Because from the spread of the way they're moving price, it's trying to find direction. Now I can just sit here and be like, okay, we're down $29, $30. Okay, fine. We've got the daily open. There's a good chance that they're probably going to go towards the daily open. Right, so that's just cost me right now. If I close this trade, it's going to cost me, well, not yet. Hold on. Here we go. Let me just go into Exo charts for a split second to put it into perspective for you. Okay, look, I've got these imbalances right here, okay? Those imbalances are a problem for me because they could actually come and sweep those imbalances, right? So I've got to be very, very cautious with this. Now, imagine if I had size. I'd be panicking because it's moving too fast for my liking. I don't like it. So I'm just going to be like, okay, it's taken me now $30 to understand that. Or should I wait until it goes down here? Well, I can work with $30. I can work with a $50 loss. I'm cool with that. Well, let's wait and see. Well, why don't you change direction, Tino? Well, no, because they keep bouncing up and down in this range right now. So I'm going to wait. Let's see. Can we get anything? Can it make its way back up? Because all the bids are coming in right now, but they're not able to go in. So that could suggest that they could actually make a bit of a reversal from here if the bids can't actually push it down. Here we go. So we got a little bit of a reversal now. Let's see if they can go into that imbalance. And it's the start of the market. It's always going to be shocking like this. It's horrible when you trade the first few minutes of the marketplace. What are we? 7 minutes in, okay? So I've got to wait. I'm not putting on risk. Yeah? They could sweep lower. So I'll be like, you know what? I'm going to get out. Get out of the trade. What has that trade done for me? It's given me the idea that price could actually continue lower, but I haven't lost the bank. So now I can say, okay, I'm confident now that price is going to go lower. Do I want to run short? No, because when I hit these zones here, it can instantly come back up. So I'm now going to say to myself, I'm going to wait until it can actually achieve the liquidity here, and then I'll pay more attention because I've got a feel for this range right now because I put money down, okay? I've got an experience for loss, and it's trading at the lows of the session near enough, so I know that I'm pending a reversal at some point. That reversal, how much will it go up by? Who knows? But I don't know when the reversal gets triggered to go up to, but what I do know is I can pick my spots and understand when to commit and when not to, even with the smallest size. That's what keeps me in the game. I start light and I never average down in positions. I'm always adding to profitable positions. I never add to any losing positions. That's when you're building positions. A lot of people do build and they are in drawdowns, but I never add to losing positions. It's always let the profit pay for it. Okay, here we go. So now they've swept that liquidity right there. They could still continue to go lower. The book doesn't have any obstruction. Look at all the light contract sizes. It can just easily sweep to the downside. I have to say to myself, just wait until they do that, you know? If the traders don't go in your favor in 2 hours, do you get the F out? Well, No, because I always time it in. For me, as a scalper, what I do is if I take a trade and it's not going in my favor, that means I'm not in the right momentum. I'm out within 5 minutes. If I'm not seeing it making the move that I want, I'm out. But if you're a swing trader or a day trader where you're going to open in the morning, close in the evening, if you don't give it that freedom to move and you're off the 15-minute time frame or the hour chart that you're basing your trades off, you've got to give it that freedom. But after 2 hours, if it doesn't make a move from your position and you've been in drawdown most of the time, get out so you can then get another entry point. Because there's no point it could continue against you badly, if that makes sense. 142 on that. Oh, my days. Look at that. Here we go. So look, NASDAQ right now is trying to make a little bit of a recovery up. They've swept this imbalance, but there's still more of an imbalance down below. So I've got to be careful here. And look, red vector candle, when does that finish? That finishes in 20 minutes. So part and parcel, I could be like, okay, could take another trade right here to see it going up again. But I do run the risk of that. Guess what? Take the risk. I've got to take the risk. I can't say, oh, what if it does this? What if it does that? Take the trade. Doesn't do anything waiting around for it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. What's going to happen? I lose a bit of change. So what? I'm trying to hunt for the low here. I'm looking for snap reversals. And I know I can catch them because that's the asset that NASDAQ is. It triggers a big bid. Like right now, we're at the 50 EMA. So they could react at the daily. So I'm running that risk right now. Here we go. We've got a little bit of movement up. Can they do a snap reversal and trigger some offers over here? We've just hit the imbalance zone. And when I see it go up to that, I'm like, hold on a sec. It's managed to stop. So it's resisted that. So it might not be done. So it's now come back down again to move away from that. There is some guys there. I've got to wait and see. Do I give it a bit of a chance or do I get out? I can wait for it. But I know it's moving down. So I may have entered at the wrong time. I know they're going to try and go for that. But I've picked that spot right there to say, yep, you know what? I'm going to try and take advantage of a little reversal from that point. If it doesn't do it, it doesn't do it, ladies and gentlemen. But I've got to give it the freedom. I'm like, okay, you've swept that liquidity now. You're very close to that. You're at the daily low. No bids are coming in. Is there exhaustion coming in? Could I expect a snap reversal? And that's how there you go. Look at that. It's just going down. Now it's come to that liquidity. Could I hold? Got the daily open test, which they could actually reverse from. And these are the things that go through my mind when I'm looking for positions. But look at the risk I'm using. I'm putting down nothing. But when you're using 5, 10, 15, 20 contracts, you're getting screwed, ladies and gentlemen. This would be about a 4.5 grand loss for me right now if I was using the size that I wanted to use. So that's how you stay in the game, in my opinion. You know? Are you going to do that reversal, NASDAQ? Come on, man. For God's sake. Just get back up. No bids. But you want that liquidity. I know you do. Come on, do it. Yeah, they're going to do it. They're going to eat that liquidity, but never mind. But I hope it makes sense to you all. Tina, why are you so against altcoins? I'm not against altcoins. You know? I've got nothing against altcoins. What I do, ladies and gentlemen, is I trade movement. But people trade bias. And now I have to marry the idea of bias with movement or the potential of it. Because I can't tell you exactly where it's going to go. But what I closed that too soon. I can't tell you where it's going to go, but I can tell you that if this logically has happened from a macro perspective, how are investors going to react to it? For me, I'm not investing in altcoins. Because if I was investing in altcoins, I would be focused on my altcoin. I'd be continuously monitoring the company, keeping an eye on when the developers are stepping in, stepping out. Are they hiring new developers? What's the roadmap like? Is it looking promising? What are they doing? Why are you sat on YouTube? Someone's always going to be giving you the optimistic story. And whenever someone says to you, yeah, it's going up, it's going up, it's going up, is that enough of a reason for you to commit your money into it because they say it's going up? That's bollocks. It really is. And there's a lot of people that will say, yeah, but he said that. He said, I couldn't care. Doesn't make sense to me. What makes sense to me is fundamentals. So, stocks, Nvidia. take advantage of NVIDIA. Biggest market cap going. It moves markets. It's clear as day from a moving perspective, okay? The liquidity, 1.8 million at $144.99. So in terms of movement, I look at that and I say, that tells me that NVIDIA is more than likely going to go up. That means NASDAQ could start climbing up very shortly. 1.8 million shares to be bought at 144. Wow. That's big liquidity right there. Okay? For the book. So I marry the idea of bias. I take that and say, how are investors thinking about it? Okay, I might trade towards that movement. But when you're investing in a project, these order flows don't really matter to you. They don't. You're focusing on how the company is getting people to buy their asset. That whether it be the technology, the white paper, whatever. So I'm not slating altcoins. I'm just saying to you that any coin out of Bitcoin is a meme coin because that's what it is. You know, when you've got altcoins that are being done mainstream, big mainstream, hitting Bloomberg, like you don't hear about any altcoins that are doing fantastically well to the point where Bloomberg needs to make a reference to it. All right, we've got NASDAQ filing for the SUI ETF. Okay, cool. You got XRP altcoin. You got Ethereum altcoin. You got Solana altcoin, BNB altcoin. All right, cool. But people are trying to get altcoin universe and hope that their coins are going to go up if Bitcoin dominance goes down. Nah, it's not going to work like that because Bitcoin dominance has got Wall Street into it and they are going to be buying the Bitcoin and they're going to keep on buying it and buying it. And it's not going to stop, ladies and gentlemen. There you go. They took that liquidity right there. We've got that down there. Could be a bit of a problem, but I know what they're doing with this NASDAQ. I know exactly what they're doing with it because NVIDIA's going up. NASDAQ's bidding. They're bidding the life out of it. Anyways, other than that, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that makes sense for you. Yeah, look, this is what the problem is with a lot of the space in crypto. People and just trading overall, people are fixated on bias. They really are. They give too much of a shit about bias and you have to care about movement. And movement doesn't necessarily imply bias because yesterday NASDAQ slumped and everything was good. So you've got to be prepared for those instances. Detach from the idea that you need to know where it's going to go and trade what it's doing. It's so easily said than done, but screen time will help you only if you know how to execute because you can get good at making the wrong mistake and develop a beautiful bad habit because that was me. I was fucking awesome at losing. And when I say I was awesome, I was always losing. And I was proud that I was always losing. So I was like, okay, if I'm really good at losing, let me try losing a little bit less. Then I got really good at that. And then I got even better at it. So now I can say I'm good at losing a little bit, but not compared to what I used to lose. I used to swipe accounts, deposit 10 grand. Within an hour, it's gone. Within an hour. It's so bad. This game will break you. It will mess you up. But you can't quit. You can't. Because you have to go through it. You have to. Why don't you trade NASDAQ on BTCC? I do trade it sometimes if I want to do swing trades. Only if I want to do swing trades. But I trade on the depth of market just because of my style of trading. I'm fast in, fast out. I'm too fast. I haven't got the patience to sit too long. Unless the trade's working in my favor, I will not be tolerating the sideways range. I have sat through wild ranges with NASDAQ, but then I just lose patience and get out. So yeah. Okay then. Cool. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're good. Be sure to like and subscribe on the way out and enjoy your trading day. Platinum members, I've got an update coming out to you very shortly. All right. Take care, yourselves, gang. Peace.